Hello everybody to a new tutorial of mine, how to make sewing so much easier for you. Today I'd like to show you in this video how you can make this particular Mandarin color for a shirt or for a blouse or wherever you need one. So first of all, let me show you that there's different kinds and ways to make this particular standing up color. As you can see here, my color goes all the way to the front of the edge of the button front part, and you can button it as well. That is the usual way. But my particular one here, which you will see now on the doll, does meet in the middle. That means in the moment I folded over my button towards my buttonholes, that's overlapping well, but the actual color is only meeting exactly in the middle, as you can see this right here. This is one way of doing it. And right away I would like to point out to you, if you make a nice shirt for a guy, don't be so bored with all these gray and brown colors. Try to add some color onto the shirts from the guys. It's so much nicer. As you can see, I worked here with a beautiful blue. There's a thread. I better cut that off. That wasn't right. That's correct. All right. You see, I added the front parts here, and this you will actually see all in this coming video. I show you how to make this pattern for this particular Mandarin color, how I made the front part, and as you can see here in the back, let's say you have some real nice haircut short in the back. That looks fantastic if you add an extra little part, maybe even in the different color as I did it here, to give this a nice stretch upwards on the neck. Well, that's approximately all I got to say to this. So watch the video and decide if you would like to make a design for your shirt or for your next blouse like this. So let's go. Of course, first of all, we have to do all the cutting, and we have to do a pattern if we don't have one. So you already can cut the back from the pattern for your blouse or shirt that you do have. And you first of all measure exactly where your seam will be, the width from your center back towards your seam where the shoulder will be. As you don't have a seam on that side where the center back is, so you start on that edge and you finish where your seam would be, not any longer. In my case here, this is 10.5 centimeters. The next step is to take your front. And again here, you measure from the finished front line seam, your front middle, to the shoulder. And also there, don't measure the seam that you have. So it's really from that corner that I draw there for you up to that corner where the shoulder seam will be. So like I said, don't measure the seams in this particular case, only that roundabout. And I do have here now a 12.5 centimeters exactly. Those are the measurements you need to write down or keep in mind very well. Now, first of all, you have to make the decision if you would like to add the material in the front middle for your placket directly, if you want to cut it on right there, or if you like to do my version by using a different material maybe, or even if you want to use the same material to cut it extra because it's a different way of stitching in. But that also means if you do it my way, that your front of the middle will slightly have to be changed. So I want my placket, the finished size, to be 3 centimeters. That means my width that I have to cut is 8. Then I will iron a little bit of a lining interfacing on the back to give it a little bit of holding for the buttons and the buttonhole. Then I iron it in half, and one of the long sides I iron 1 centimeter over, which will later on be my finished front edge on the top already. That gives me the finished placket size of 3 centimeter widths. Then they will lie like that on top of each other. And of course, I will have to stitch it on the front of my part on, but therefore not to cut it like my pattern, because that's the wrong width. From your pattern now, you have, if your placket is 3 centimeters wide, you have to cut it 1.5 centimeters smaller, which I've done already in my case here. That's why you could see that it was not lying even with the pattern that I have underneath. I made it 1.5 centimeters smaller, and that later on, then on my placket, I will still have exactly the middle of the front, my front center then. All right, now please take some paper where you like to draw your color on. Fold it in half, or a little bit farther than your 2 measurements are that you took from the back and the front neck part. And we will start drawing them on. So you got them ready lying here. I said we got 10.5 and I had 12.5 on the front part. In a right angle on the fold over that you did there, just draw a straight line across. Leave a little bit of space because you have to add seams later on and so on. That's got to be the center middle in the back. The center back middle, that's correct. All right, now I like to make this color the finished size 3 centimeters. That means I mark upwards now from this 3 centimeters and I connect my measurements there. So that is my finished width of my Mandarin color. The first measurement I have to draw now is my 10.5, which I measured on the back because that again is my middle from that side on. So measure 10.5 across that way, and that immediately is your mark for your shoulder later on when you stitch the color into the part in. And now I measure 12.5. That gives me the full length on half of my color. Half means because I folded the paper over, so later on when I open it up I got the full size there. I do exactly the same on the top now. Your next decision now is how tight exactly would you like to have the Mandarin color lying on your neck. Normally now you would measure from this last point that we marked 1.5 centimeters up or 1 centimeter up. That's definitely the minimum you have to mark. So I just mark here 1 centimeter and I also mark it 2 centimeters because you can also mark it on 3 or on 4. And whichever point you marked there, first of all you can connect them, of course, all the way up slightly. And now choose your 1 centimeter or your 2 centimeter point and connect them towards your mark that you have for your shoulder there. Make a nice flat going around there. I will show you the same I do now on the top, which exactly is on my 1 centimeter above my other line there, because I need my 3 centimeter width again. As you remember, we said we want it on 3. But I mark you, as I want to make mine on 2 centimeters height, I mark that right away as well. I take my 2 centimeter mark on that right side where my left hand is, and I connect that very well and let it run out very nice and flat. And again, 1 centimeter above that other one there, I do my other mark. Because the higher you go on that point, the longer this bottom part gets. Slightly longer. Sometimes you have to measure that again and maybe even slightly shorten it on that part. But your top line, therefore, goes much smaller. If you measure it, you can see that, because it's curved inward there. That means the higher you go there with your measurement, the tighter the color will be lying on your neck when it's finished. So I marked the 1 centimeter one there for the moment, so you see what I mean. And now I do the same with the 2 centimeter one. You do not have to make a round curve there. You can leave it as a corner on the neck, but as you saw on my model before, I rounded it because I always think for a Mandarin color it looks much nicer when it's really nice and round there. Don't make it too sharp, make it nice and flat, because also for stitching it makes it much easier for yourself. So I will use my 2 centimeter height there, as you can see now, and the higher you go, you might have to even your line towards the shoulder point out a little bit flatter, not that you get a funny corner there. Right in that position you might have to flatten it out if you've gone higher than on 2 centimeters. That is definitely necessary, so you, as I said before, do not get a funny corner on your color. And like I said, if you go much higher, take your tape again, tape measurement, and again measure the length from your shoulder, which was 12.5 on my case, but the higher I go, you can see it goes longer. That means I might have to shorten the front where my curve is now by maybe 2-3 millimeters, and that goes tighter on that top part and will be nicely lying around your neck then on your blouse and your shirt. So what's the next step? We have to put now our 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around. You might want to put more on, but I suggest always put 1 centimeter around everything. This is a norm that is used in the industrial always, and it is very, very good. The only parts where you need more is on the seam on the bottom, on the skirt as an example, or an arm sleeve, whatever. So we want to draw one more little part here, which I started already. Again, in a right angle, make a line. This is for this little blue part that stands up in the neck over your color. I want it to be a finished length of 18 centimeters. That means I made a mark here by 9 centimeters, again folded in half, as you can see. And on one side I marked it 1.5, and you could see I had a slight curve going up by a 1.8. Now again I mark my 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around it, and now all I have to do is cut it out and I got my pattern. That's the way. And I'm choosing now my 2 centimeters going up because I want it slightly tighter on the neck. I put all my marks in for the center middle in the back, and I cut my parts already out here now. As you can see, I also ironed some interfacing on, and I made an extra little pattern for marking this, which you either can just mark where you will stitch along, because for these round, what you call a corner, yeah, whatever, for these round parts on the collar, you want to have them exactly the same on both sides. That means if you have a little pattern made, they will be exactly alike, and you don't need to worry about anything else anymore. So you need to cut 2 pieces of this, as I said, and you mark them, or you use later on the pattern. And here is the same for this little part in the back. You also need to cut 2 pieces exactly alike. For little pieces, I like to put my interfacing on the material first, and then I draw the pattern on the material, because it's much more exact on little pieces than to cut it all and then stick the interfacing on. It is better that way. Now I put some little cuts in my middle which I need, and I think I'm prepared for sewing everything. Okay, one of these parts I will iron 1 centimeter edge over, which is easier later on for my sewing. But here we are already on the sewing machine, and we start by preparing the plackets on the front on the blouse. So put yourself a little mark in the middle, on the top and on the bottom, exactly in the middle of your 3 centimeters that are finished. That means on 1.5 you put your mark, you put your nice side on the bottom, and you put the placket part on the left side on your front on like this. Stitch it on 1 centimeter, as that is exactly the width I allowed for my seam there. Now you look for your little cuts up there, fold it over where you ironed the edge in the half over. As you can see here, that's my ironing edge. Fold it over and put exactly the 2 marks from your 1.5 centimeters on top of each other. And stitch a 1 centimeter seam only on that little front part there. Make sure you're not stitching farther than your actual cut is that you have on the top there, your mark. And make sure your first and your last stitch is really very well held by stitching back and forth. Now have a little check if that is how you like it, if it's straight, if it's square. And now cut exactly where you have your little marks already. Cut into there towards or exactly to the edge of that stitch that you have there. Exactly to that stitch, not any farther. And but don't stop before either, because when you turn it now, it's supposed to fall over like that on its own totally. Now you have the choice of stitching the edge over or not. I leave it as it is because the thread I have on will also, for the whole placket, look as if I haven't stitched it at all. So I'm just with a little stitch hold this on the top together. Now this is my iron side on the proper side now, you can see that, and I just stitch down that edge like that, and that's finished. That means my one placket side is already totally finished, and I do exactly the same to the other one. Here I'm starting on the bottom of the blouse, the other one I start on the top because I'm making a pair of 1 centimeter all the way up to the top. Then I fold it in my ironed edge over, put cut on cut, and now starting on the edge, stitching exactly from the edge to that little cut that I marked earlier on my 1.5 centimeter for the middle of my placket. Put my little cut in there, turn it inside out, make it nice and square as I had it planned, and here again I start stitching on the bottom. And now make sure that you always, when this is your proper side, make sure that your seam does not plink out. It's supposed to be covered. Even if you have all the same material and the same thread, it does not look nice if that seam shows out. That's something we don't want. Okay, both of your sides, your left and your right placket for the button and the buttonholes are finished. There we go. That's what it looks like. And you got this little corner stuck over. No matter if you want to use it for ladies or for gents. That's both the same. It all depends on where you put the buttonholes in. Now I'm taking this little blue neck part or collar part, you could also call it. I'm stitching 3 sides up. That means the straight side will go in the collar, but the slightly curved up edges that I have, that's what I got to close up. 1 centimeter exactly, as that is again what I allowed. I like to repeat this because it is very important. After I've done those 3 sides, I got to slightly trim the corners down. Otherwise, they will not turn around easily and will look funny. That is important. Again, turn it inside out, push your corners out nicely. If you wish, go to your ironing board and iron the whole part. I'm quite used to stitching like that. Bit by bit, I rubble it out with my fingers, and that works just as well for me. And I close this side with a very small, let's say 3-4 millimeter seam, because I don't want it to show out later. So that part is finished. Now you can close your shoulders from your blouse, from your skirt, and iron it, or clean it off with your overlock as an example, or your zigzag machine. All right, now you can see I ironed one edge of my long Mandarin color over the bottom edge, and the top edge will get this little part in. As my sides both look exactly the same, it doesn't now matter which side I take for the right side. But look at yours. If your stitching isn't nice on one side, then choose that for the non-showing side, which will be lying on the neck, on the body then, and put the nice side on top of the nice side. Stitch it on again small, not very wide. Now we take both Mandarin color parts and stitch them up. As you can see, I marked it here, as I said, and there's my 1 centimeter ironed over edge. Now you have the chance, the possibility, you can just start from the bottom sewing this color together, but you can also leave it folded over, as you can see it here, and that's the way I prefer it, because I always think the colors turn out a little bit nicer. Now you have it marked, go with a little stitch all the way around it, or take the little pattern you made extra for this curve, for this corner. And that is even the better way. Now with a small stitch, go around your pattern, and you will see at the end both of your sides from your color will be exactly alike. And that's what you want, nothing else. And it wasn't difficult. You don't need to wonder, oh, will this round be correctly for me? And now, again, my 1 centimeter allowance. There's my middle now, my little cut from my back, the middle. I go along, putting edge on edge, as that's the way I cut it. And again, now here at the end, I will take my pattern, put it on the top. I think you have to stitch a little bit farther on, Lilo, first. Yep. That's it. And now I can take my pattern, and I put it on exactly under my needle, against my, under my foot, sorry, against my sewing needle. And with a small stitch, I slowly, by lifting the foot occasionally while the needle is in the material, I go around the curve, and I finish exactly there at the end where I folded it over. That's plenty. Again, we have to trim off our standing over material there a little bit in the round parts. Very important. Don't leave that in, because your rounds will not be round. They will get corners in. So I leave you, depends a little bit on the material, I leave around 3 millimeters standing inside when I cut it. Now you turn that one inside out, ribble it out a little bit more with the fingers, and then put them on top of each other to check if you stitched correctly, if your pattern was correctly, if they're even. If they're not even, turn it around again and look what you've done wrong. But that's exactly as I want it. All right. Now take your blouse, your shirt, and we're stitching this on. As my ironed over part will be on the proper side later on, I will stitch the not ironed color part onto the left side, also the inside of my blouse. That's my right side, my proper side. That's correct. All right. Now you see the left side, as you can see my seam from the shoulder here. That is the side I will stitch this on, the non-ironed over part. And now you have to put exactly those two corners together. That ironed over corner there, you put on top of the standing over part that's left from your placket. And you will start sewing exactly in that corner. And that stitch has got to be held very firm. That shouldn't open up by any meaning. So you got your first cut coming, which is the mark for the shoulder. And you just go bit by bit. Take your time. It's all round. You cannot pull it to a straight line. You must go as the rounds are and slowly go bit by bit. There's my cut exactly on top of my shoulder. And I continue. I right away look for my middle in the back. And if you see that on your first mark, the mark doesn't fit with the shoulder, open it up again right away. Otherwise, you've really got a problem to get the middle together correctly. And when the middle is correctly here in the back, you see you get easily to your next mark, which is your shoulder again, and your next mark there in the color. And we're getting already to the end here. That wasn't difficult, was it? And these parts exactly you put on top of each other and stitch exactly to that corner where they both meet. All right, and that means your color is halfway done already. That wasn't difficult, was it? All right, check it all, that you got no funny creases in anywhere stitched in. And now you must make the decision where you would like to start. I always say, do not start stitching now that on top exactly in the front corner. I prefer to start where the shoulder part is. Because when you start there and you stitch back and forwards, you come around, you stitch again back and forwards, it usually shows a lot, especially if you maybe not have a very thin thread on. So the best way to do it is to start on the shoulder, because that you don't see anyway. And when I start there on the shoulder, see, you got your mark there for your shoulder anyway. So it's not a matter of looking, oh well, how do I have to put this now? No, you take the mark, fold your iron part over, put it exactly in that position and start sewing there. And I'm not stitching back and forwards there either. But when I come all the way around, when the color is practically finished, I just stitch another 3-4 stitches over it, and it's held just as well, and it looks much better, and it's not so thick than if you continue going back and forth with the machine. Now, again here, it's very important that you just cover that seam that you have. Even maybe if your thread is exactly the same color as the material, it does not look nice if you do not cover up that stitch. That's why on a standing up color like this one, I always prefer to stitch it on from the left side first, like I've just done, and now stitch it over the top from the right side, because then I can see where my line is and what it looks now. Now you can see by folding this over, it practically wants to do it all on its own, no problem. Of course, you have the choice again to iron your color, the edge there nicely with the ironing first. That'll make it easier and faster now here on the sewing machine, which I suggest if you're not doing so much sewing as I used to do in my life, then go and iron it first. But I just go along here, no problem. I pull it out nicely, and here make sure you don't get any creases in the bottom in. It's all got to be pulled out and stretched out, and go over gentle, slow, take your time, do the job correct, because it always works out. If you're not firm with the job like that, as long as you do it slower, you do less mistakes. The mistakes only start when you think, oh, I do this quickly. Not when you haven't done it many times. Believe me, I've done a couple of stitchings in my life. My knowledge has not been given to me in my baby buggy. I had, well, maybe a little bit, okay. But most of it I had to learn over many, many hours sitting on this FAF machine and hundreds of other machines. Okay, go again into this corner now. Push everything nicely and make sure your seam will not show out. And now when the top line is already stitched like that, you see where it wants to line. This would be the same if you ironed your top edge first before you're stitching it in. it makes it easier for yourself. So don't take my hard way. Take an easy way for yourself. All right. Again, here you have your little mark in the color where your shoulders got to be, and you got your shoulder underneath there. So you actually just continue. You go along and you see there's nothing more you can do wrong now. It is practically finished. All right, everybody. I think I should say already now to you, thank you so much for watching all my videos, for giving me nice comments, because I'm doing this in German and then I try to explain it to you in English, and now you can see I interrupt myself. I just stitched another couple of stitches over and it's finished. That's all that needed doing. Now, I think you would like to make one of those Mandarin colors yourself as well, and all I can say is I wish again so much fun for you to do this and to try it. If you do it the way I explained it to you, you will not have any problems with it, but you will enjoy your work a lot. So I say bye for now. I hope you have a good time doing these jobs, and give me a nice comment, subscribe my channel, and come around again. Bye for now, yours Lilo.